Everyone, welcome back to the Oak Island Research Channel. In this video, the 11th video already, we're going to focus on Nostria. We're still walking our riddle clock with a little fish, but this time the riddle will be more complex than usually, more far-stretched, but it makes sense still. And in order to solve, sorry, the next riddle, which is the triangles, the two triangles, triangle DECS, and it's DECS. It's not de, as two. It is not Deus. If you look at it very closely, it is DECS, and that's how we're going to use it because it's useful this way. And the triangle of Pierre. Pierre, by the way, again the same sound. Pierre means at the same time Peter, the name, but also stone or rock, stone rather. So in French, we say Jesus said to Peter, Jésus a dit à Pierre, tu es Pierre et c'est sur cette pierre que je bâtirai mon église. He said to Peter, you're Peter and it's on the stone I will build my church. And that's in French it's famous as we use Pierre once in the same sentence by Jesus, once as a name and once as the stone, because it's the rock on which the church will be built. You're Peter, and therefore it's on you, Peter, rock, that the church will be built. So anyways, a triangle of Peter might mean the triangle of stones or the triangle of Peter. And it might mean something else that we're going to see in a second. So let's go. In order to solve those two riddles in one shot, we have to go back to the top right corner message with set dessin pour Monsieur François La Rochefoucauld. Excuse me. Un petit verre d'apronustria. And this got me crazy for weeks. That word, d'apronustria. So Zina Halpen says it's Nostria. Nostria is the territory after Charlemagne died. Is some of France and Germany was split amongst his son. It was a Salic heritage system. It was not at the time, it was not the firstborn child who would inherit everything from the father. It would be spread against all children. That's why at the time, in the Middle Age, by the year 700, Charlemagne is until 786, I think. When an emperor or king would die, the whole territory would be sliced and shared by the children. And then because the children wanted all the territory, they would start making war or by alliance and marriage. And they changed that inheritance system in 1200, 1300 in some region for a firstborn child would inherit everything. Now, if you play a game named Crusader Kings, in Crusader Kings, that's where I learned all that. And then you had also systems in some region where it was the last one who was born who would inherit. There's a system where the first daughter would inherit. In the Basque region, it's matriarchal. Therefore, the inheritance doesn't go to the male child. It goes to the first female child. Anyways, d'apronustria is not Nostria, that region of France that used to exist, and it's not a word that exists at all. I checked, and the closest I could get was d'apronus, which means to learn from somebody, but then what do you do with tria? And with the precision and the on purpose of everything on this map, if the author took the time to write d'apronustria, we have to decode d'apronustria. And that's exactly what we're going to do now, together, on this piece of lines, which we have not thoroughly analyzed yet. I told you my first spark came from this sentence, which was an Alexandrian, 12 syllables, but there's more to find in there. So let's go to d'apronustria. First of all, general rules, as I introduced in my last video. When you got la, it means someplace, and we got la un petit verre. That's where we located the little v. Then that v that I connected with the cross and the compass, and also little v I call worms, like this little one there. And that was important, and say la, do something, and it was to link those points. In the same sentence, and that was some very original research at the beginning, I found this blue association of syllables and sound, giving in blue ce dessin d'approche, this approach drawing. And that was the very beginning of my research, and I didn't fully understand how the author was coding this. But I thought it was neat, and it was using some part of d'Apres Nostria, making a reason and a purpose for it to be there. And I could write this approach drawing in French. I'm not sure this is correct and intended by the author, but that's definitely one thing I saw, and one thing that say, yeah, the whole map is a drawing approach. But maybe I'm wrong. And that's the blue part. Now with the red part, that's what I can make with the rest of those words. And something after, I don't know, a month of work on this, I realized Foucault, from Rochefoucauld, again, could be interpreted in another way. And I found it brilliant. Foucault is a name, and a famous one in France. Look at schools named Charles de Foucault, the explorer. We got the François La Rochefoucauld, the noble, and the Foucault. Look, fou means crazy or mad, fou in French. And then you're left with co. But that's just the way we pronounce it in French, Foucault. If you read all the letters, you get Foucauld, code. That's a code, the code. So it's a crazy code, a fou code. And when I saw that, I'm like, oh my gosh, how beautiful and crazy is that? That is, the author is using Foucault, and in French, if you pay attention to co, and it took me a month and a half, you can sound it if you read it literally with all the letters. Code, it's a code, and it's a crazy code. So the author is warning us we're gonna have to deal with some crazy code there. And if I reorganize the letter I circled in red, I can read pour nous un code un peu fou tria. Pour nous un code un peu fou tria, which is in English, for us, a code that's a bit crazy, tria. So that's the code tria. So now I can understand that. And what so tria is a crazy code, as if it was not crazy enough already. I wrote those slides like 2-3 weeks ago. There's only 2 places on the map we can find tria, series of characters, sequence of characters, of letters. And that's le triangle d'ICS and the triangle de Pierre, my 2 triangles going in my fish riddle clock. I found that my next 2 items to analyze, the next 2 riddles are the triangle d'ECS and then the triangle de Pierre. But I will not find the answer to the riddle at the triangle space. I need to find the answer of the riddle here in the d'Apres Nostria sentence. So the author is telling us that this time the code's going to be a bit crazy. Forgive me, forgive him. And he's already using Nust Tria to explain us that it's the Tria code. So let's see how we can use that. Again, I repeat on top, in blue is what I found earlier with the approach drawing, and in red is the code, the crazy code. So if we take the first triangle, and tria is the code, right? And I'm going to replace it by what I circle in green, the apre. And I get apprendre, DECS, and DECS in French can be sounded DCS. So what I did, I substituted tria, which is the crazy code, and it's telling us it's a bit crazy, by what was very handy to replace it with is d'Apres. And that gives a reason now for all the letters in d'Apres Nostria. For the dessin d'approche, approach drawing, for the crazy code for us, nous, is the tria, and then I've got the apres that now kicks in. And if I replace tria in triangle by apres, I get apprendre. Now, in French, to learn, the verb to learn is apprendre, dre with the end, apprendre. And here he makes us write by substitution apprendre. It's almost the same, you almost got it. You got the apprendre, but instead of dre, dre sound, you get gle. And I think the author needed to mention the triangles, and that's the best he could make coherent the code and the cipher and the substitution. And he's telling us this time it's a bit crazy code. I think the author needed the triangle word, and to match triangle of Peter. That's why he's using apprendre instead of apprendre. And I think this is the first imperfection we find in this document. So I take it all right because then it makes so much sense. It tells us apprendre de CS, which can be written CS, same sound. In English, learn from those S. And we know those S are crossed. Here, dessin, we got a bar crossing them, except one of them. And I'll let you look for it on the map. There's only one single S that is not crossed. And I checked every single of those S's. And by chance, I discover when you return the map, when you put La Rochefoucauld upside down, rotate it 180 degrees, and you're reading everything upside down, that S here of East is the only S where they close the bar and of the S. What are you reading here? I'm reading 78. And I could be reading a 3. That hint was given to us by William. And I connected with how to find a riddle to find that 78, which is going to reveal quite important in the continuation later. You can read 783, but that's not an angle. Angle go all the way to 360 normally. Well, I've done maths, so you can have 720 sometimes. But I believe it's 78 east. And there's another S underneath, the S of west. You could read S is 5 there, but you see that I'm going to zoom in, that it's not as close here. It's close. They touch each other. Here, the bar on the end of the S is really open. That's the only S on east that closes its loop. All the others are open. So maybe you read 75, 6, 75, 9, 75. I'm not convinced by this one because S is in singular when it asks check for the S. And it would have needed a second S to say those S's like he did on Le Île de Chêne. Well, I add an S. Les I, the eyes. He put a plural. That's my former video, or 2 videos ago. I think it's number 9. So here we got that. Let's learn from those S's. Gives us the 78 number when you turn it upside down, and it's the only S that's shaped that way. So I think we got a hint. We got some indication about something to do at 78 degree east, and that will reveal later. Okay, so that was the first triangle using the Tria code into apprendre de CS. The second one gives apprendre de Pierre, learn from Peter. But as soon as I see R now, I know that little VR, and R means to wander with no purpose. Remember that. So what it is saying there is like we got to learn from a pie that wanders with no purpose on the map. We have to learn from a pie, PR, pie wanders, wandering with no purpose. And there is a pie sign on the whole map. It's right there. I single it out here. It's right there. And you can see the pi sign is there with an angle. It is there. That's your pi sign. And again, I recall the petit VR, R and VR gave us all those little, and by the way, look at it here. You see those little angle? If you watch Dot to Dot's video, it's the same triangle as the fish. We find it in several places, and the understanding we have from those little markers, the worms I call them, the little V's, that R that wanders with no purpose, those are showing very important feature on the map. Things you must use. That's our conclusion. It draws attention. So far, all those markers we found revealed very important either alignment from my V to the center of the cross, either the fish that we're going to see we're going to use and abuse, or this pi here that's meaningful. And so let's pay attention to that shape, that pi thing. Okay, so pi, to help us find it at the top. I'm a trained engineer and I did a lot of math, and when you learn in high school the Thales postulate, Thales says that in any triangle, if you cut that triangle with 2 lines parallel, the ratio of AB, let me zoom in, AB over AD is the same ratio value as AC over AE. So, and there's another property I can't remember, but for the first time in my life, I managed to explain the Thales postulate easily, but that's what it is. If you got a triangle, ABC, and you cut it with two parallel lines anywhere on the triangle, as long as they're parallel, then you will get, I think that's what it is, you will get AB distance divided by AD is the same as AC distance divided by AE. It's about ratio, it's about scale, isn't it? So when I saw that two lines crossing that triangle, and I saw Thales. And there's another one in French, a scale, the word is échelle. And in French, a ladder, the word is échelle. Same word, same spelling. And what do you see there? I can see a ladder, two-step ladder. So another little hint that we're talking about the same thing. I'll keep that last one for later. I'll switch because I'm going to use a video to describe the last block. So what do we have here? Several indications that this thing that they underline is the scale. The scale is 1 1347. 1 1347. And since the beginning of my research, I've heard so many people saying this is a date, this is a date, this is a date. No, it is not a date, and nothing happened on 1347. And the reason is that in French, on a date, you never put an article, never. So that was very odd looking for me that it was a date, and it didn't relate to anything. And then Zena claimed it was a date as when the Templar came on the island, and no, no, and no. And when I saw that marking, it's if it's a scale. If you ever use, if you're old enough to have used a road map when driving your car, you know that scales on any map is that symbolic way of writing, meaning 1 meter on your map is 1347 meter in reality, or 1 inch on your map is 1347 inch on the real island in that case. And that's exactly the way to code 1 4, and that's why they put 1 here. That's another indication this is a scale. 1, the ratio 1 4 1347. So I made those slides a long time ago, and I said we'll see on Michael's sketch dot to dot if that's the case and the scale works basically. And since I relaunched my channel, I'm a bit late to him, and now I can explain you as a reader of the map how you get the scale. You have to use the Nostria. You have to learn from Peter's triangle, from pi, that wanders. Pi is here, and here in pi you find the scale, the Thales postulate, and that number written under the format of a scale, right? I let you watch Dot to Dot's video channel because then he proved it graphically it was a scale and how it worked, and it's unbelievable how we use that radius in circles. But if you're still not convinced, the author even drew it. This is a medieval scale, right? You got the plate here, the chain for what you've got to weight, and you would hold the whole scale by those rings, and that weight here, you would move that weight on that rod, on that hump, on that rod, and you would move it until the weight multiplied by the distance would match the weight here, and it would be graduated, and you would just read the data and the value of the mass that you're measuring. And this is what we got here. That little mass here is my hash that I move on that rod, so I can compensate the weight of what I've got to weight and read the value. And actually, I haven't thought of it now. Dot to dot, if you watch me and Michael, maybe we have to move that to weight that island. Anyways, that's just a thought as I'm going. And yeah, you've got the chain here, well, you get your scale, and it's all there. So yes, that's the scale, and that's you find it. We'll find another hint in the next riddle that reinforces the fact you have to work with the scale. And I cannot believe how beautiful this is because it just works perfectly. And congratulations to Dot, who I knew this was not a date. It is a scale. By the way, it is a distance as well. Dot Dot's got a video showing that there's a distance of 1347 foot that matches something very nice connecting islands. So this number is not there by chance. It's very, very worked out and engineered and designed. Voila. Last things, no more lines. Again, this is not talking about line, this is talking about the scale. So we stay put and we stay with our map that we might use later. Voila, thank you very much for following. This one was a great one. D'après Nostria was a tough one to crack, and it gave us two hints, very important, 78-degree east, and that scale that now we understand, and that dot to dot can explain you how we use on the graphic. As I'm just working from the map, La Rochefoucauld, and decoding it, saying, well, there's a scale that's got to be used, and dot to dot found the way to use it. So we're really a team there. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed that one. Don't hesitate to like it if you do. That's a great one, and we got other even better ones coming up. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.